It's time to talk. Let me make sure this is, yep, the mic's working. It's time to talk about the best and the worst of the quarter. So I used to do monthly wrap-ups and decided to do quarterly best and worst instead, because now I have a second channel, which you should totally check out, which I do weekly reading vlogs where I update my reading progress week to week, which is a lot more, there's more discussions, it's more involved, it's more, I don't know, I just like it. I like having those book discussions, and a wrap-up was just so condensed. So now I do the weekly vlogs, which you should watch, and now I'm gonna do these quarterly best and worst to give you like a highlights reel. However, I decided one way that could make it more fun is if we assign some awards to the best and the worst. So I went to my community tab and I asked y'all to give me some prompts for some arbitrary awards to assign. So for this video and for the worst video, we're doing the best, as the title would indicate. We're doing the best today. For this video and the next video, I'm going to be assigning some awards of the best for certain categories, as well as just my favorite stories that I read in this quarter. However, a factor to this is each book can only receive one award, so I had to think through what awards I wanted to give. Not every book is going to get an award, because that'd just be a lot, but each book can only have one award so that it's not super repetitive. And if you're interested in knowing about all the books that I read this quarter, I'm going to make Corey make a graphic so that you can see it all right here. So those are all the books that I read over the course of the last 3 months. And if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on any of these books that don't end up showing up in one of these 2 videos, I do have a spreadsheet that my friend Lynn, who's amazing, keeps up with for me that shows every book I've read and has the link to the vlog where that book is talked about, so you can get my full thoughts on anything. It's all in the description. So thank you to everybody that gave prompts, and we're gonna start with the prompts to give awards, and then at the end we'll talk about what I liked the most. First award we're going to give is Most Improved Book or Series. So I've been trying to do better about seeing series through in a quicker succession. I'm really bad about reading the first book, loving it, and then reading a bunch of other first books and not continuing on with series as quickly as I should. I'm trying to focus on sequels more lately, and it's gonna be Lady Trent. So I read the first 2 books in this series last year, and I've read the final 3 in the 5-book series this year. And the first 2 books, the first book in the series is good. The second book is okay. 3rd and 4th and 5th are all just fantastic, especially the 4th and 5th are fantastic books. And as I've read through the series, it keeps getting better from 3 on especially. Things come together really well. Some stuff that's been set up is paid off really well. And just generally as a very character-focused story, if you don't know, Lady Trent is a fictional memoir. It's science fiction and fantasy. It's about this woman who's a naturalist who is obsessed with dragons. And so she goes on this journey. I think she's in the Victorian era. She goes on this journey to study dragons, and she has a partner that she works with. She has a lot of personal and social hurdles to overcome because women's rights were not of high priority at that time. And it's a very character focused. It's this woman who is old now who's telling her story, and she's telling it in this very blunt way, and she talks about her mistakes and other people's mistakes just very honestly. And I loved these memoirs, but also just seeing her personal character growth from book 1 to book 5 was so satisfying. And by the end, I was so proud of this fictional character and all that she had done in her life. Next award, we have Most Unexpected Moment or Twist in a Book that you did not see coming. So, obviously I'm not going to tell you about the twist because that would ruin it for you, but I'm giving this one to Memories of Ice because I think the reason this beats out other twists for me is because I did not see it coming at all, but when it happened, my reaction was 1, just deeply being upset, and 2, saying, of course it would, if it had to happen, it would happen this way. It made perfect sense, and I felt it. I didn't see it coming. and I felt it. Favorite side character who should definitely get their own book? Marvin! Marvin! This quarter, I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book 4, and he was only in the final chapter of that book. He was barely in the book, which I think is a punishable crime. Actually, there were several characters that I think are just amazing pieces to the story that were not in this book or barely in this book. And it's fine. It's fine. It's not fine. I'm upset about it. But regardless, Marvin is a character that I love every line out of his mouth. I love everything he does. I love everything about him. And I would follow a whole series just for him. Best opening line for this one. Should I be holding books? Would I be a better booktuber if I did it this way? For this one, I'm going to cheat because I'm a pirate, and I'm going to do best opening scene, which is going to be for book lovers. I don't remember what the opening line for this book is. Maybe it's wonderful. When books are your life, or in my case, your job, you're pretty good at guessing where a story is going. That is a very average opening line. However, what I really enjoyed about this opening sequence is she then goes on to describe this very common trope of the guy who has this really cutthroat, harsh girlfriend who has so much Botox in her face that she can't smile right or something like that, and just describes like the villainous girlfriend who he then goes off to a small town for some sort of work thing, meets the small town girl, falls in love. It's beautiful. And I was reading this and I was reading her lengthy description of this trope, and I'm like, yeah, I know the trope. Shut up about the trope. Get to the story. Why are you describing this to me in such detail? And then at the end of her story, she says, I'm the one that wears heels all the time. I'm the girl that gets dumped for the charming one. And it was such a great opener to the book to set up the type of character that she is, the type of struggles that she's had relationship-wise, upcoming, and the kind of tropes. This book is very, very trope conscious. It is a book about a literary agent who has read all the stories and knows all of the things that books tend to lean on, and each of these tropes, a lot of these tropes are used in the story, but subverted, and it's very self-aware, and it's done so well, and it was such a great setup to get me very interested in what we were doing, as well as to show me right off the bat that I'm gonna be a self-aware book, but I'm gonna do it in a way that's gonna be really fun. Next award is a book or series that could be adapted as a video game. So, because I've said before that Malazan would make a great video game, I think that the magic system it's very tactile, it's very visual, and I could just see this working in that format. But I've already given Memories of Ice an award, so the next obvious easy answer is Cradle. I don't know if it's technically lit RPG, but it's definitely a progression fantasy, and the whole point is seeing our main character level up and rise in the ranks, and it would absolutely, as well as the way the magic system is too, I just really think that it would translate very well to a video game, and I read book 4 this quarter. The best or most interesting atmosphere or setting. I forgot that I'm supposed to be holding up books. Let me go get one. Actually, I don't think that book is down here. I think it's upstairs. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I've talked about this one several times, so I'll keep it quick. But my favorite part about this story was the atmosphere. Our main character, she's from a village that the sea is very aggressive. The storms that come harm their village, and so the reason is because the sea god is under a curse, and it doesn't matter. So they sacrifice a woman to the sea every so often so that hopefully she'll be the sea god's true bride. He'll choose her, he'll calm down, their village will be safe. And our main character, through a series of events, ends up in the ocean, and she goes down to the spirit world, and the majority of the book takes place in the spirit world. And I've said this many times and I won't stop saying it. It feels like a Studio Ghibli film. It feels like Spirited Away, and I loved it. I loved it. I love a really atmospheric book. I love a book that's really focused on the feel of where you are, of how it feels to be there. And I think that this world was built up so well. I wish it would have been explored more. There were a lot of really interesting concepts introduced that we didn't end up doing anything with. And I would have loved for this book to be so much longer. I think it was like right at 300 pages, I think. Maybe even a little bit under. And it needed to be more because the world was the best part of the story and I wanted to explore it further. Next award, best book where you are not the target audience. So, I already talked about Girl Beneath the Sea, Who Fell Beneath the Sea, which is YA, and I definitely primarily read adult. However, that book is upstairs too. I have a stack of books, 2 stacks of books actually, that I need to bring downstairs and put somewhere. I don't know where. Amari is the next book. I've been really loving middle grade lately. I've been reading more of it and I've been really, really enjoying myself. And Amari is the middle grade that I read this quarter and it was so fun. It's very reminiscent to a lot of those nostalgic kind of stories. It feels a lot like Harry Potter, Nevermore, Percy Jackson, all those kinds of stories. And it's also heavily, I watched an interview with the author on How to Train Your Gavin's channel, which, by the way, on the second channel, Gavin and I are going to do a chat talking about the 2 books after book 2 is released and we read it, as well as, hopefully, my friend Amber Elise. I think she's going to be there too, who's also a booktuber. I'll link all the people. But anyway, the point is, I loved this book. Actually, the point was I watched Gavin's video where he interviewed the author, and the author said that he was also heavily inspired by the Men in Black movies, and oh my goodness, I feel that. So Amari is, her brother is her best friend, and he is several years older than her, and he went off to this leadership camp over the summer, which is actually a magical school, and they don't know it, and he's disappeared, and he's been gone for 6 months, and she refuses to believe that he's dead, but basically everybody has kind of that's what they've concluded. But then he had set her up to be able to go to this camp too. So she does, because that's the premise of the story. And now she's in this magical world at this magical camp learning magical things. And she's also an anomaly. So it has a similar setup to Harry Potter, but it also it's very similar to Nevermore in that, like, she is the thing, she's her type of magic is something that a lot of people fear. And she has a lot of isolation because of that, but it also sets her up for some really, really strong friendships and bonds. It's just a story about coming into your own, accepting yourself, accepting the role you play in the world, and kind of embracing who you are. And it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. I loved it. But it's definitively middle grade, and it does middle grade things. And there's some things that are predictable if you're not in that age range. But it was so good. I just enjoyed it. Next award will go to the best villain. You gave me several options here. That's what I picked. I have a video, which I will link. Oh man, I'm giving you all the links today. I hope Corey puts the links in there, because you know I won't. I'll link a video, maybe, of my favorite villains. I did a video recently talking about my favorite villains, and there are actually a few villains that made it to that video from this quarter. So I won't repeat any villains in there. So go check out that video if you want to see me rant about some people I hate. But since that video, I've been introduced to another villain, and I don't have that book down here either. And his name is Askeladd. Oh my goodness. So this is from the manga Vinland Saga. Askeladd. He is charming and smart and a very charismatic, very easy to love. But he's also horrible. He commits so many terrible offenses against people. He's so selfish. He's after his own agenda, and he's kind to people that are in his group. Like, he's so easy to like, but he will also kill people, and as he's about to kill them, he will be telling them why what he's doing is actually not a bad thing. Actually, he's doing them a favor by slaughtering this entire village. Actually, he's not doing something wrong, because here's the history behind this conflict between us. And like, he will repeatedly do these horrible things, and as he's doing them, he will convince the person, or at least try to convince the person. He'll talk his way through. He can justify anything he does, and he can do it well. He's a villain that really makes you think, because his arguments are so well formed that it's like, okay, I need to take a step back, and I need to think about what's been said, and I need to look at what's been done, and I'm gonna have to figure out how I feel about this. He's a very well-written villain, and I have such complicated feelings about him. Most wholesome friendship, that is going to go to Legends and Lattes. That book is just filled with nothing but wholesomeness, and the friendships in there are, and the characters and between, oh my gosh, there's so many great ones. I've forgotten everybody's name because it's who I am as a person, but I remember Cal's name. Cal's a character that is one of my favorites. I love him. He's so humble and quiet and giving and sweet, but then also the baker, stop. Every time he's on the page, I just, he's so sweet. But even the two main characters, I love the way that this group of very different individuals come together into this found family, sweet little coffee shop that they're at together. I love how awkward and different and giving and kind they are. And we're gonna end it on most thought-provoking, which I will give to the Chimera Ant arc. Definitely Malazan and Vinland Saga could have been that for me, but they already got awards, and Chimera Ant definitely deserves this award too. I did not expect to like this arc because it's weird, but I did, and it's not just the main themes that are explored in the arc, which I've talked about this several times in other videos, so I don't feel like I need to explain it again. It's not just the main themes that are explored and the main thing that the arc is doing, which did make me think a lot, but it's also the individual character arcs that happened that keep going round and round in my brain, that I keep relating to my life and the world, and it's an arc that has made me reflect. Now let's talk about my favorite things that I've read this quarter. First of all, a book that I didn't give an award to. Robin Hobb is an author. I read her, I read the Fitz. I read 2 Fitz books, and then I quit and I skipped the last book and I just went on to the Liveship Trilogy because I just wasn't enjoying myself. And I was convinced that I wasn't gonna like this either, and then I could definitively say, I've tried enough Hobb. She writes long books, 3 count, I'm done. But instead, I really, really, really loved the first book. It was very good, but it was also very slow. It didn't really properly begin until about halfway through, and these books are near 1,000 pages. It was just, I loved it, but my goodness, woman. And then I read book 2, and I loved every page. I didn't love every scene, because I didn't love every scene, but I did love reading this book. I couldn't put it down. It's over 900 pages, I'm pretty sure, and I think I read it in like a week and a half, which is that's not a normal reading pace for me. And it set up there were some great character moments, character progressions. I never know what's gonna come with these characters, but everything that does come feels like it came from the character and not the author manufacturing things. The story itself is so interesting. It's nautical, we're set at sea. Obviously, I'm gonna love it. Also, there were some amazing reveals at the end that have me so excited for the next book, and I'm pretty sure I'm reading the next book in September. I loved it. And then I will briefly mention 2 other books that have already gotten awards, but they are also on my favorites list of the year because I'm only doing 3. We have Vinland Saga, which is a Viking story set in Iceland. It's a rough read, you know? It's war, and it sucks. And the characters are not the bad guys against the good guys. It's rough, but it's so, the characters are so well crafted. The choices they make are so gray sometimes. And it's making me think a lot, which I love in my books, but it's also providing some really cool, awesome moments. So it's like, it's got the hype factor, but it also has the serious, let's reflect on this factor. And it's hitting me just right. I'm loving it. And the last book on my list I will mention very briefly, and that is Memories of Ice. I am slowly reading through Malazan, and each book is escalating from the last. It's a very broad, wide story that's a lot to keep track of, but it's also a story that's based on characters and on what they're going through, how they're responding to the world, and how what they're experiencing is shaping them. It's a story where no one is safe, where anything can happen, and where I'm very affected by Erikson's writing. The stuff that people go through, I feel it. Their highs, their lows, their triumphs, their pain, and their pain, and their pain. I feel it. And it's hard, having a hard time, but it's very good. So there you go. Those are those are my top books of these last 3 months, as well as the awards for a bunch of other books that I also really enjoyed. Let me know if you liked this different format for the quarterly best and worst. If you enjoy doing the awards, then we can definitely keep doing it, because I thought it was fun. I don't know if the worst of the quarter is coming out next, but it'll at least be a video that's coming to you soon. I'm gonna record it right now. Let me know what your top 3 books of the quarter were and why, and feel free to assign a couple of awards to other books as well if you like. Episode videos are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on this channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the other channel, which is linked in the description. I'll see you again soon. Bye.